They tryna turn Trenton into Baby Flint. Been signs by depression on the billboards ever since. 100 years ago we was lynched. Now they use germ warfare to kill us. I'm convinced, got the evidence. I look around and it's evident. Then go down to City Hall and see so much negligence. Real art is intelligent. A true artist sends messages that speak to your intelligence. They fought and died so I can do my thing. Not to get drunk and high or join no gang. I will not let none of you die in vain. For my people I bang, bang, bang. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. I rep for you in everything I do. I rep for you in every place I go. I rep for you in everything I do. In every place I go. They say post-traumatic slavery disorder's fake, but I just tell them all to wake up. Everything we went through, what a way down a rape, bro. Isn't our genetic makeup. So I am my ancestors from block to block. Let's build like it's Tetris. We must unite, link up like a necklace. They fought and died and we disrespected. So I come to correct it. The legacy they left I protected. We only think about self and neglected. You're African but yet you rejected. No. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. I rep for you in everything I do. I rep for you in every place I go. I rep for you in everything I do. In every place I go. I do. I go.
We can't hear you.
Booyah. Welcome back to another edition of New Freedom Exchange, your cultural expression for social dignity and community empowerment. I'm your co-host, Brother Dean, here with...
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Marsha.
Well, alaikum assalam, assalamu alaikum, peace and blessings, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. It's Imam Bilal Hassan here. We're back, New Freedom Exchange, live and direct, and we're with our beloved, no longer guest, no longer special guest, our beloved Imam Rashad. Assalamu alaikum, Imam.
Alaikum assalam. How's everyone today? You all forgive me. I'm still trying to adjust my.
Go ahead, man.
It's slipping a little bit.
All right, get your life together. Get your life together, Imam.
Well, if y'all tuned in, shout out to Imam Musa. Wa alaikum assalam, Imam Musa. Wa alaikum assalam, Brother Khalid. Abdullah Islam. Thank you all for tuning in, live and direct. Anyone else tuning in, please drop your place where you are tuning in from, city, state, country, wherever that be. And also, please share the live stream to your friends and family members. And we are live. So how was everyone's Sunday so far and weekend?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Gosh, it goes by so fast. I'm trying to remember what was happening. Oh, yesterday. My kids had me running around yesterday, y'all. Oh my goodness. So my daughter sells jewelry, which alhamdulillah, I'm so proud of all that she's doing. But she had a pop-up, so I had to get her to her pop-up. Oh. And the other one was going to the mall with her friends. And then I had to go back and pick this one up and then go back and pick this one up. It was crazy. I just wanted to sit down.
How did she make out?
Oh, she always does really well. And actually the event that she did yesterday was rather slow in comparison to the other ones. And she still made out really, really well. She always makes her money back. That's never an issue. But she's always like trying to hit a certain target because she usually does like at least, I would say when she does a pop-up, she sells at least $300 in product. So and she makes it, she buys all her material and she makes her bracelets and keychains and charms and all that stuff herself. So it's just good to watch and see her, do her thing. Also, I just want to give a quick shout out to Sasha Sabri, who we interviewed last time.
Yeah, Friday.
I want to give a shout out because she mentioned a movie, an Amazon movie, Sylvie's Love, and I watched it. That's the one. That was why yesterday was like such an annoyance having to go back and forth with these kids yesterday, because I just wanted to sit down and watch the movie. But it was a really, really good movie. So shout out to Sasha Sabri for suggesting that movie, because I'm like a hopeless romantic too. So I was like all into that movie.
Excellent. Check this out. Here's the formula for your daughter that my father gave me. You said 300, right?
Yeah.
So 300 times 10 times every day of the year is $1 million.
Okay, and now if I tell her that, let me say something, she gonna be hustling.
That's how she make her first million. Multiply herself times 10 every day, she got $1 million.
She gonna be hustling as soon as I tell her.
That's the spirit. That's the spirit, though. That's definitely the spirit. That's the motivation.
I'm gonna just show you. Here go my introduction. Something came in the mail.
What's that?
Check this out. Check this out. The Kachabi card.
Oh, shout out about the Kachabi, man.
This is his album. It's his album. He his digital album.
Wow.
It's on a USB card.
Okay.
Yeah, so that just came in the mail. That joint was crack. Yeah, he got like four. I think he said he got 4 or 5 of his albums on here.
Wow.
Yeah, State of the Ummah.
Coming up on February 14th. I just got an email or a text or something the other day.
Yeah, he has a show. He has a show. You already know we're gonna be simulcasting that to our platform as well. So definitely tune in.
It pops out like this.
Oh.
And then you slide it in. Boom.
Yeah.
Oh. You download all his joints. Classic.
I've seen those before. I just never seen anybody do it with music, so that's cool.
Yeah, they be getting fancy, man. Getting fancy.
Oh yeah, getting fancy. Yeah. So check them out. New Africa Records.
Okay. Yeah, New Africa Records coming soon. Should check that out. Yeah.
So what about your weekend? What about y'all weekend? Imam Rashad, Imam Bilal, what's going on with your weekend? How's it been?
I'll let Imam Rashad go first.
Mine has been pretty good. I mean, as I mentioned to you all earlier, Saturday is pretty normal day. It's pretty slow, to be honest. My children are gone for the weekend, so that's a good thing for me and my wife.
That's freedom.
Yeah, that's good. But as a matter of fact, when I stepped out, they had just gotten back. But Sundays tend to be busy, so I was busy today in a good way. Busy, good. So alhamdulillah, no complaints. Everything's good.
That's good. Well, for me, I mean, chilling, man. I mean, like, just trying to stay physically fit. Trying to stay mentally fit.
Yeah, I heard you was doing planks, man. I heard you.
It's good for you. It's good for your body, man. It's good for your core. You know what I'm saying? It's good for the core and different things like that. So definitely, they say, doing some stretching at least like 10, 15 minutes a day is always good. If you could do it twice a day, that's even better. But that's good for your body. If you can't do a full workout. But alhamdulillah, everything's well. My mom is progressing well over her surgery. She's getting around, she's walking outside, getting around, so that's always a good sign. Just doing PT, she's doing a regular exercise, a regular stretching exercise the PT gave her to do throughout the week, every day, daily. And so everything's progressing. Like I said, just trying to stay focused, trying to hit these goals, hit these targets, trying to stay focused in Imam's class, obviously, I owe him some deliverables, so those are coming soon. I know. I have no excuse.
Excellent. Well, I heard you and the brothers, y'all getting ready. You said when are y'all brothers getting ready? You said by the Eid.
What?
Remember y'all saw this video before?
Get it. Let me get the ox. I got something for the ox. Song we can bang on the way to the mosque. On the way to the mosque. On the way Friday.
Way to the mosque. Yeah, we're on the way to the mosque, man. We're on the way to the mosque.
Wait, did y'all practice walking down those stairs?
In reality, we're not just going to be doing that just for the mosque, but in reality, I'm saying, I think tonight's topic actually fits into that. Just men taking up the responsibility, to move the needle forward, to help push the needle forward in our community. So it's not just mobilizing for symbolism purposes, but I think that we're just mobilizing for, again, strategies to push the needle forward in our community. So look out for that. That's coming down the pipe. See more unraveling of that real soon.
Excellent. So we ready to get started? How y'all feeling?
Let's do it.
Okay.
What you want me to read the Webster again, man?
Webster,
Yeah, first our memories.
I wasn't trying to read the Webster, man. Like, I mean, let's do something different. Let's not read the Webster, man. Let's do something different. So when you hear the term strategy come to mind, what comes to your mind? Like when you heard the word strategy, what comes to mind? Like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Like, instantly, within seconds.
Organizing.
Organizing, is that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Dean, what about you?
Yeah, planning.
Planning? Email?
Mm-hmm.
Same. I was thinking planning.
Me, I'm thinking. I don't know. I'm thinking battle. I'm thinking war, man. Thinking battle. I'm thinking war, and not in like bloodshed or anything like that. I'm just because the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was a general. He was a general in the army. He was and when you are at battle, you have to have implement strategies. So you have to have people who, like Marsha said, who are good organizers. Like Deen and Imam Rashad said, like good planners. You need minds like that around you. See, the Prophet had minds around him. It wasn't just him making the decisions, in terms of a strategic battle when you're at battle. And now we're not at physical battle. In some cases, maybe some people are, but we're not at physical battle. I think we're at a different type of battle that we're combating. And I think that we need to define what is that battle, and then discuss the strategies as how to move forward and push the needle forward in terms of addressing the needs of our community. So with that, I think that's better than reading the dictionary. I mean, I could read it, but I think it's better.
Well, I think before we sort of move further, it's important for us to talk about where we were in the last conversation, especially for those who weren't right, especially for those who weren't with us the last time. We were having a conversation about some of the broken pieces of our community, and we talked about a lot of different aspects of the community. And for me personally, I always feel like when we have those conversations about what's not working and what needs to be fixed, there always has to be a follow-up. Okay, but what's the solution? Because we don't want to leave people there. And so that's where we are today. We want to have a conversation about what are the strategies for us moving forward. And that conversation was really like where the leadership is now or is not now. And now we want to talk about what we can do to make things better, what opportunities exist for us to move forward. And, like I said, we never want to leave people in a space of, well, this ain't working and that ain't working and this doesn't exist and that doesn't exist. We want to give solutions. So that's what we're discussing today.
And also to add to that, if the Imam also could address some of the strategies that the Imam used over his years of leadership, some of his initiatives, some of his visions and his goals that he did, implement and he shared with our community for us to carry on as well.
So it's you all are I usually wait for Bilal to frame something.
Oh, okay. No, I got the frame. I got the frame for you right now. Yeah, I got the frame for you. I got the frame for you.
You had that face like me now?
No, I got the frame. I
have the meeting that I left. They're on my thing, so they're here, and I'm trying to make sure nothing goes wrong. So that's if you all see me looking to the side.
It's all good. It's all good.
So a strategy describes how the ends, which are the goals, will be achieved by the means, the resources. A strategy can be intended or can emerge as a pattern of activity as the organization adapts to its environment or competes. It involves activities such as strategic planning and strategic thinking.
Yeah. So I to me, how I'm hearing everything, the discussion seems very broad, because you have strategies, which is a general. Strategy itself is as you just defined it, is very general, and we know that we're speaking of overall our life as a community of people. Islam, the emphasis in Islam is always on community life. So that's the destiny, that's the goal, the ideal community or the ideal social order. In other words, a social order or community order. Community is a better term, actually. That is that is under God, under Allah, and it is in agreement with the pattern for human life as God planned it. So the whole of the tradition of our prophet, or his history, I should say, we really see him as a strategist. And when we read the Quran, we see in the Quran language of strategy. But community as a picture, or community as an entity on its own, it is composed of several aspects. It has several components. So we have a political interest, we have cultural life, we have economics, etc. And all of these entities, we know, they are also made up, or at least composed of various levels. So if we look, for example, we think about the political interest. Well, in America, we have our local politics, city politics, we may have state politics, let alone federal politics. And then the nature of our relationship with those respective levels will be determined by not only our religion, but also just it will be mainly influenced by this religion, first and foremost. At the same time, how we establish our religion has to be understood in light of what's available to us here in this particular environment. So I think that to kind of narrow it down, the first thing that we would have to do is identify the areas of community life that exist, and then which of those areas are most important for us. I personally believe that every area at the present moment, it's not as pressing. It's not as pressing. When we look about where we want to go, most of that language is very broad. Again, the destiny, model community. Some of us still say New Africa. So you have these terms, but what does that look like? And what are the means and methods to arrive at that particular end? And I've mentioned on the program before, I think that the two most important components for our life today is education and business. Those are the two most important aspects for us today. I get that. I say that upon two foundations. Number one, we know that the Prophet, praise and peace be upon him, when he made the hijrah, after 13 years of performing or doing his mission in Mecca and not receiving much support, there was a very small number of Muslims that had left Mecca with him, but there was also a strong, small yet strong concentration of newly converted Muslims in Medina that invited him to come and establish his work there. And what the history says is that the first thing that the Prophet did when he arrived in Medina was to establish a masjid. And for us, as you all know, the masjid is not just a place of worship. It was a house of study. The Prophet was literally an educator. As Imam Mohammed said, for example, he said that time, you have to understand it as an academic revolution. They were learning the Quran. Revelation was coming. They were memorizing it. The Prophet was always lecturing. He was demonstrating the life. It was a knowledge infused environment. So education was at the outset. And then the second thing that he did, he almost did it simultaneously. He established an independent marketplace for the Muslims. So he separated the business interests of the Muslim community from the business establishment that was already present there in Medina. So here in the Prophet's tradition, we know that he put focus on, he drew attention to the importance of knowledge and the importance of economics, because that's really what supports a people. We know that what economics and knowledge serve is family life and then community. And family life is more important. So I'm not saying education and business are more important than family. I'm saying that they are the most important aims for the protection and preservation and longevity of family and what's born out of family, such as community concerns, taking care of our elderly, making sure that our children and et cetera have necessary resources to progress in this society. So I think that those two interests are first. Then the prophet established, we know, a constitution. So then he established a political, he established himself politically. He established himself politically. But the business interest and the education interest come first. Why? Because the education determines how you function in business. And to safeguard your business interests and to inform your business interests, as well as to inform how you exist in a community amongst other peoples. Because really a society, that's why I said community is a better term. A society can be composed of multiple communities. And we know that was the case there in Medina. So the political ordering of the society becomes necessary, because now you as a separate people with your own ideas, and a lifestyle born out of your own independent ideas or perception of life, etc., your own ethics, morality, and then your own business life, that necessitates you establishing some type of relationship at the political level. So that's the prophet. When we study Imam Muhammad, we can kind of backtrack for the sake of this discussion, but one of the things I want to say at the outset, we know for a fact, Imam Muhammad, he said that he wanted to devote the last 10 years of his life primarily to business. He felt that in one of the first Sunday addresses, he had actually said publicly that if we cannot grow in business, we have nowhere else to go. But then privately, in a private setting, he had expressed his interest to really shut down most of the activities that he was doing in terms of, going around speaking. I think he was still going to have Ramadan sessions, but just the frequency with which he did it, he was going to shut all of that down, and he was going to devote his time primarily to business. And I think the second interest was writing. And when you look around at the community, I mean, I don't think it takes any stretch of the imagination to really see the extent of the need for us to have money. We need money. We need money. We need dollars. And I think that, so I'm speaking broad, I'm trying to bring it in, but each one on its own, it can go in a lot of directions, because we have a business community that I really believe, when we analyze them, there's been a lot of failure, and then we can look at how we can address it. When we look at education, so on and so forth. So that my position is based upon those two evidences, the tradition of the prophet, where Imam Muhammad was. And as you all know, in the latter years, Imam Muhammad, he himself was a teacher of a class. And outside of that classroom, we know that he sent students to Damascus, Syria. And outside of that, we know, even up until the last address that he gave to the community, the shared freedom space, he prefaced that lecture by saying, when I'm speaking, anytime I'm speaking in occasions like this, I'm always speaking to my students. So remember, we were the followers of Imam. Later on, he began to use language like associates, members of his association. More and more towards the end, he began to use the language students. So education, business, very big for us. And I think that those two hills, although I shouldn't say hills, let's just say those two areas, they still remain a serious need for us to address in our cities and in our collective picture across the country.
So I have a question, and it kind of ties back a little bit to the previous conversation we were having when we talked about the leadership in our last community conversations. As we think back to the commitment that the community made when we were a part of the Nation of Islam, and then as the community transitioned under the leadership of Imam Muhammad, and the commitment and the sacrifice that people made, both community-wide and in their personal lives with their families. Do you think, as we plan these strategies out, or as we have this conversation about strategies for moving the needle forward, do you believe that we have, in this day and age, the same sacrificial commitment to making that happen in our communities? And, if so, tell us why you believe that. And if not, what do we need to do to obtain that?
Yes, ma'am. That's a very good question. Because I think that's. I mean, again, when we look at, for example, the Hijra, that was a sacrifice. I mean, those people literally, may Allah be pleased with them all. They literally had to leave the land of their foreparents. They had to leave behind wealth, their property, etc., for the cause of Islam. And Allah actually says in the Quran, "Let those fight in the path of God who prefer the hereafter above the life of this world." So that's just a necessary component if we are if we are serious about a social destiny. If we're really serious about it, we have to accept that a part of the path to get there is the sacrifice for our interests, or sacrificing the comforts, etc., of this world. That doesn't mean we will do without them, but we have to be prepared to do without them. When we hear the history of the early following in the Nation of Islam, that's exactly what we hear about as well. Even though they didn't have the correct concept, their faith and devotion to what they did know is what really laid the groundwork for the establishment of the community. So Imam Muhammad would tell the story of early members, like Ephraim Bahar. There's a center in Chicago named after him, and other pioneers. Even in Milwaukee, Masjid Sultan Muhammad is named after one of the early members there. But you hear about the stories when the brother would collect scrap metal all day just to cash it in at the end of the day, and then give all of that to the community. He devoted his energies to what he believed in. To get straight to your question, I'm not sure if that spirit is in existence enough. It is in existence, but I don't think that it's with us enough. And I'm trying to avoid I'm kind of attempting to stay into the spirit of what you mentioned, Marsha, about pointing out the problem. But I do, so I'm trying to stay on this side of the line. But
Gotcha.
I do have to say this. Our business community, I'm very disappointed in a lot of them. I'm very disappointed in most of them, if not all of them. I'm actually going to speak about this, inshallah, at the masjid Friday. So, but I believe that our business people go into business without the proper concept, of what it's all about. We're Muslim. So we're not people from the world. So we don't go into business for a better home and for nice cars and clothes and stuff like that. We have to identify with the spirit and direction of the community life of Al-Islam. So when we go into business, it's just like a man who takes pride in caring for his wife and children. His pride, I feel this way, and I'm sure the brothers here with us and those listening will agree. We don't need anything. If I had a t-shirt and jeans, but my wife and children were taken care of, that's satisfactory. Now, granted, I mean, if there's enough to go around and I can get a decent shirt, I would want a decent shirt. But that's not the primary. My pride is in seeing my wife and children supported by my muscles. That's a natural man. That's Adam. That's the natural man. The same spirit has to be in our business people. It has to be in our business people. But the tendency, because making money does something to your ego. Let's just be real. I mean, anyone who's made a couple of dollars, it feels good. There's sort of a, there's just this, it feeds you in a certain type of way. But it can mess your mind up. And I think that, like here in Atlanta, for example, just to be direct, we have a lot of business people, but I work for the school. They don't give anything. Very few of them do. I'm talking about the younger ones. The older ones did. Most of them have been, quote unquote, burnt out or mistreated. However, I don't know if I can accept the burnout all the way, because we're Muslim. Nothing should burn us out of the destiny. So that's a conversation on its own. So I think that our business community, I think that our professional class, because we have some professionals too. We have them here.
We have a lot of them.
We have a lot of them here. A strong cadre of them. They too. I don't get from them the spirit that I think is necessary for us that's necessary for us to make the progress that we want to make. And so where does it come from? I believe it comes from the sacrificial spirit, the pioneering spirit. This perhaps is a problem with African Americans, period. Somewhere along the line, we got comfortable and we felt that we've arrived. And I'm confused as to how we can feel we arrived when we clearly, I don't see any clear indication that we have arrived. So that's the strategy of Satan is to put that spirit in us as well. So I do see that as a problem. And I think for those of us who are, young-ish, I think that we have to do away with that spirit immediately. We have to do it if we have it. We shouldn't do anything desiring some type of immediate worldly reward. We have to plan and work with our children's children in mind. We really do. Children's children, however you said. I think I said it wrong grammatically, but I think you all you know what I mean. I really do think that.
So can you? I'm on this backtrack a little bit in your commentary here, in reference to how to appropriately see the term business from a Muslim standpoint, or from an Islamic standpoint. Could you elaborate just a little bit on those lines? Because the Imam did pen a book called Islam's Business Climate for Success.
Yes.
And in that book, he does go into detail about this matter. But specifically, could you elaborate a little bit into that? Because I think what you're getting at, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's influences that's coming from the outside world, or society at large, from the society that is telling us to keep up with the Joneses, or just to when we get our material wealth, that we want to keep it to ourselves versus, sharing it and etc. So could you elaborate a little bit more about that?
Right. So, and again, so just before we go into that, I do think that, as I mentioned to you, Bilal and the Mujahideen, we do have a meeting with brothers across the country. Most of us are in our 20s and 30s. A couple of us are maybe a little bit over that. And in those meetings, we'll go into more. It's not an imam's meeting. It's a meeting of the minds of community brothers, which is really just the what they call a rubber meets the road kind of approach, where we can go into details and talk about these things and really address a particular issue, so on and so forth. I'm drawing a blank. Refresh my mind again. What was the exact thing you said?
Could you elaborate a little bit more about the standard for those who are in business from an Islamic perspective?
Yeah, so this has been from personal experience as well as observation. So I'll just give you an example. Number one, for us, like Allah says in the Quran, I have not created the jinn nor the men except for my service. So our perception is that our whole life is supposed to be work or worship for God. So when we go into business, if we go into education, if we go into cultural expression, we are doing it as servants of God, and we are doing it to advance to the best of our respective abilities, God's purpose for man in general. And then particular, we're doing it as Muslims. So my business establishment, how I behave as a business person, so on and so forth, my product, all of it has to come under the rule of Islam, just Islamic morality, Islamic excellence, the rule of excellence, as the Prophet said, when the Muslim endeavors to do a thing, he seeks to perfect it, etc. But more than that, there has to be an Islamic methodology. So we're talking about strategy. The strategy has to be a Muslim strategy. So, for example, in Islamic, from an Islamic law perspective, just to use that term, because it's what's in my mind right now, you can't sell a product that's defective. If you sell me the product, if I buy the product and I find out that it's defective afterwards, I didn't know, then the sale is off. If you sell me a product and you know the product is defective, that's not the case in the world. We've actually had that problem in our community with, you'll get these shipments from China, and they'll sell you a bulk of suits, and the first 100 look good, and the last 10,000 got covered in mold. They'll actually do that. That's one thing. Another thing is just basics. Like, I've literally been in and I actually am going to mention this publicly. I've actually been in agreements with brothers who they've invited me to do business with them, to do some work or what have you. And the work will be, serious work. You're talking about 6 figures in a matter of months. And the same ones will break the contract without informing you. Because in the business world, you go towards what's the better deal. So I make a deal with you, Bilal, and you're going to do this work for me for $90,000. But Mujahideens can do it for $40,000. The ideal business decision is to go with Mujahideen. The problem is, if you, Bilal, are a Muslim and Mujahideen is a wine drinking Bible thumper, that's a problem. And it's not correct for me to take my money from my Muslim brother and give it to Mujahideen. Now, I may be able to say, hey, look, man, let's renegotiate, so on and so forth. But not only that, the brothers will literally, I've seen this done here in this city since I've been here. They will give their brother the work verbally, and then someone else will be doing the job several months later. Now, what those brothers don't know, from an Islamic standpoint, again, a contract in Islam is not something you write down. That it's an option to write it down. The only time we're commanded to write it down is in the verse of debt. That verse is regarding debt specifically. But a contract in Islam is just an agreement. Bilal, I need you to do this for me. I'll pay you 90,000. You say, okay, that's literally a contract. We've literally just agreed. And if I break that, I've broken the contract and I have to do some type of repayment. These Muslim brothers do that all the time. So what I'm saying is the religion is not even informing how we do business. The world is. So this is why education is so important, because Islamic education is not just argument and logic. It's a spirit. It's a morality. Morality should influence how we think. We're thinking with a morally conditioned mind, not just with a rational mind, not just, oh, this represents that. That's a part of it, but it has to have a moral basis, all aimed at the betterment of the community. Now, there's a logic here, because I've had a lot of brothers do something. I had the one brother, he said he'll give us this job. He actually came to me and said, oh man, we gave it to these Mexicans. He was laughing. And I really want to tell him, man, you don't realize how much of a slave you saw. I mean, but I was mad that day anyway. That is such an embarrassment to us as not only African Americans, but Muslim. The Latinos, they wouldn't choose you over their people for work. They just don't. Nobody does that but us, number one. But number two, the difference in my price in the Mexican guy, it really was a white guy with 2 Mexicans. It was like $200-300 difference. But the Muslim mind has to think a certain way. When I pay you, Bilal, $1,500 for something, that's feeding and caring for your Muslim wife. That's caring for your Muslim children. You're going to be giving sadaqah to the Muslim masjid. You give it to the white guy and the Mexicans, it's no telling where that dollar's going to go. It could go to Satan. You see what I'm saying? So that told me that the thought process of the brother was very immediate right there. Like, what's the better buy on the surface? But he's not thinking about the dollar amount in the context of community. That's our flaw. That's our setback as African Americans. We have to. That's one of the things Imam Muhammad said. As African Americans, we suffer from. We don't think community. We don't think in a community sense. So we're not socially intelligent like other groups are. We will hire a Latino for a job, so on and so forth, just because we see the surface. We don't see how that has a ripple effect throughout our community. So Al-Islam addresses that. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. I think you want to say something.
I do. I want to say that Al-Islam comes into change behavior, and what you're saying, Imam Rashad, about us acting like that is reminding us of how much post-traumatic slave disorder that we still suffer from. Well, however, if we go back to the Prophet's time and the Jahiliyyah days, the days of ignorance with them, and a majority of the companions of his followers coming from that experience, and him dealing with them in business and in social economic standards, they started to change after a while. They did start to mold. They did start to change, but you have to present the information. You have to present, and it does take time. It's not going to happen overnight, and because we have went through this situation, we are in this situation now, but there is really no excuse now for the African American Muslim, specifically in the community of Imam Muhammad. It's no excuse.
Right.
There is no excuse now, since we have gotten the vision, the blueprint. Now we've got a clear understanding of our Islam in terms of our whole life. There is really no excuse at this point.
And that goes back to, this is why I would say education is so important. When we go back again to the last conversation in Imam Muhammad's critique of the Imams in our association, and this is, for me, I'm not Imam Muhammad. So I take offense when, there's a, I'll give you a good example. The oldest of the young ones, we have a 13-year-old, but we have he just made 8 the other day. And we have the little ones under him. And my wife gets on him all the time. She'll use the phrase, they already have parents. He just takes it upon himself to boss. After we 7, Mama said this, you need to go do this. That's not his place. He can correct them, but he has to come from a different spirit. So I take that too. I take that along that type of analogy. That's the position I take with our imams. So I'm not with this spirit where we just like kind of bash the imams and, they ain't nothing, because Imam Muhammad said this. See, listen to this and read this transcript. Well, you're not the leader. Imam Muhammad, as the leader, earned the right. He has the right and the obligation to address them that way. You hadn't bust a grape, so you can't talk to them that way. I'll give you an example. Again, I'm just going to stick with Atlanta because that's where I am. You have people who are critical of Imam Pleman, as an example. And it's not, like when we were talking last time, people are mad at what Imam Yahya had to say, etc. Now, whether or not their disappointment is justified, whether or not their disappointment is based upon something that they heard Imam Muhammad address, etc., that's one thing. But what we have to understand as mature community members is that Imam Pleman served as the imam in this community for 25 years. I'm just using him as an example. This applies across the board. And we literally have community members when their children have died, killed in a car accident, been murdered, when they've had miscarriages, when their son and daughter came home and said, Mom, I think I'm homosexual. They turned to Imam Pleman, and he was there for them. So he has a certain level of reverence and respect in this community. So you can't just show up to Atlanta and say, yeah, man, plain Imam Muhammad said. You're showing everybody how ignorant you are. You have to be more tactful than that. Imam Muhammad could say, because Imam Muhammad is the chief. You see what I'm saying? It's the same. I'm just using Imam Muhammad as an example. That's the same with all of them. So I don't take, while I do know the critique, and I'm very aware of the critique across the nation, and I agree with it. I'm not a, I'm a person. I can see what's going on. The spirit with which we address it has to be different. Why? Because while this or that imam was counseling and doing all of this and supporting people, we have to first ask, well, hey, what have I done? What have I done? And it can't be, oh, I started a blog for students and we just blog about Imam Muhammad. That doesn't do anything. Y'all just on there, enjoying each other. That's not real community building. So we have to be careful about how we approach this thing. Having said all of that, I'm letting you know how I think as a person to preface these comments. When Imam Muhammad left the ASM and he pointed out how they didn't study, he said it before that and he reemphasized it then that they haven't studied the religion. In the class, he would talk about how he believed a lot of them were literally afraid and they felt that they couldn't know. That's just true. It's just true. And because that knowledge, because our leaders haven't really grown in Islamic knowledge, as a consequence, the congregations haven't grown. The congregations just haven't grown. And it hurts us. It hurts us. So the business, what we're talking about with business, what we're talking about with other things, it's just an example of that. There is no standard. I literally do believe that if we had a higher standard of imamship, so to speak, education, always morality, but especially understanding and a certain mode of articulation and a certain spirit in the masajid throughout the community, I do think that a lot of these problems they probably wouldn't have even crept up. But we have a lot of ignorance. We literally do have a blind leading the blind kind of situation in a lot of cities, and that does hurt us. So, when you really analyze our community, it's like, what problem do we address first? Where can we point to? We just say, hey, man, this one thing is actually working well. This is excellent. I think the only area where we could really say, hey, this thing is 100% is Imam Muhammad. So that should be the starting point. So that's why I'm saying all that to say, you're right, Bilal. But how does it start with Imam Muhammad? Those of us who have accepted the responsibility, male or female, to teach in this community, though if we have accepted the responsibility to, contribute to our schools or what have you, we have to. We should feel it as an obligation on him. As a matter of fact, Imam Muhammad said this. If we love the Quran and we love Allah, we love the Prophet, we should feel it as an obligation on us to study what he was given and see how we can carry it on for the future. That's what he told the students when they first met in 01. So I wasn't there, but it's recorded, so I have it, and that's a real thing. So I believe that that's where we have to be. We have to have an environment where we begin to really humble ourselves. I'm talking about, again, I'm back to the 20 and 30-year-olds, etc. Then we really begin to learn and accept to be formed by the language. We accept that we want this language to form us. We want the Quran, we want Muhammad's tradition to form us all over again. That really has to be our spirit in order for us to really make the progress that I think we need to make. It's not going to happen with those older brothers. I mean, that we can go into that. Those guys, when you're 50, 60, 70, you are what you are. I mean, you probably can repent for that time that you stole the ice cream cone, but I'm talking about just your overall person. We shouldn't even be looking at them to change. That's my, we shouldn't. We should be looking at how are we going to condition ourselves to carry this work forward. And we have to start with the proper foundation. And the proper foundation is what God has already established amongst us.
Go ahead, Dean.
I was going to say, so no, because I'll take some notes. So one of the strategies from what you were expressing is the approach. We have to be
Yeah,
strategic in our approach to these matters that we're dealing with in our community. We have to be strategic in our approach of how we deal with different generations. We have to be strategic in our approach on how we deal with the circumstances of our community going forward.
And I
yes,
was
sir.
pretty much going to do what you just did, Dean, because I was taking notes too.
I know you be on it.
To do like a recap of what we're saying here as strategy, and what I heard was that the last thing I kind of heard, which I guess for me I would put first, is that we need to study. We can't continue to say that we're Muslim and that we follow the leadership of Imam Muhammad and we don't know it.
Right.
That was like the first, that was the strongest thing for me. It was what we talked about last, but it was the strongest for me. And then what I heard us discussing as well was that the businesses that we do have and that we do develop in our community, whether you developed it because it was your personal desire or whatever, but because you are a member of the community, that business should benefit our masajid and our schools. I heard you say that as well. And
Right.
then I also heard that, we do have a professional class of people that aren't as active in the community as they could be, and that we really do need them for the upward mobility of the community. And so, rather than you use your professionalism for just that in your respective field, use
Right.
that to benefit the community as well. That's pretty much a synopsis of what I heard.
Yeah, yeah.
I just
That
like
was pretty
to
good.
the beautiful synopsis, Sister Marsha and Brother Dean, beautiful synopsis. I just want to do a station identification, let everyone know that you are now, for those who just tuned in, you're now tuned in to New Freedom Exchange. This is our community conversation, strategies for Imam Muhammad's community. We have our beloved Imam Rashad with us. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, New Freedom Exchange, and like the page, New Freedom Exchange, and please share this live stream. Now, my question, Marsha, you in your summary, your beautiful summary analysis about, we touched upon this the professional class. I just want to ask a question towards the professional class. For those who are listening, who are part of the professional class, we all need to listen up to what the Imam will help give us insight on. That includes myself, and it includes Sister Marsha up there, but the Dean. I mean, we're all in this class.
Absolutely. And before you even ask your question, and I just wanted to point out, and I think that we sort of have this mindset, but this is kind of what we're wanting to communicate to the whole community. Like, anything that I know, anything that I have access to, this community can have it. And I think what we're saying in this conversation is that we're looking for more people to do that. I know when I go to work every day, I'm a grant writer, right? So I go to work every day and I do that, and I write all day, research, write, whatever. But there's never a time that someone in this community could ask me for that, and I'm gonna be like, oh no, I do that for work. I can't do that for you. No, the way I look at it is I'm gaining those skills and that experience so that I can help my community. And I think that's what we're asking for. That's our plea in this conversation, is that for those who are in that category and have those skill sets, we need it. We need it for us. If you're going to do it for someone else, do it for us.
Right.
So building off of that, Sister Marsha, brilliant, because that builds right into my question. My question is, in your Imam Rashad, what do you think is a best approach or approaches to asking or reaching out on how can we better engage the professional class?
Mm-hmm.
How can we better engage them or figure out how? I mean, because there seems to be, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but there seems to perhaps be some type of gap here. Or it's just not tight in terms of communication.
Yes. So I will say this, and forgive me, I don't want to present a broad brushed kind of presentation of what's really going on. Again, so let me just, I'm just using where I am currently as an example. I mean, as you all know, I'm not from here in Atlanta, but what I have found actually is that a lot of our professionals, they only know what they know. So they haven't been um they haven't been utilized in a way that they perhaps can be utilized. So a lot of them would like to help. They just don't know how in many instances. At the same time, a lot of them don't know what they don't know. So when they do try to help, they bring in elements that don't fit. And when they experience pushback, they don't know how to, this is what I have seen, they don't know how to handle it. So I just think it takes a certain amount of tact and maturity on both sides. And you know, for those of us who are in positions to invite and work with our professional people, we have to give them space and respect for what they bring to the table. And at the same time, they have to understand that they're bringing something to the table, but they're not bringing the table itself. So they have to be humble as well. So it just takes being good, decent people. You know, I don't think it's any rocket science. I honestly believe, I mean, this may go into another direction. I honestly believe that a lot of our problems do stem from our history as a people. And I don't know for sure where, what. I know a lot of things that have happened, and I'm trying to pinpoint why do we run institutions a certain type of way. So what I mean by that is, you know, historically speaking, the African American community, the only space where we really had authority to some degree was the church. And the church was sort of this top down, you know, the preacher is the alpha male, and he had his deacons, and the deacons when they get so fed up, they start their own church because they want to be alpha males. This is why when you drive down these streets in cities like Chicago, St. Louis, there's so many churches on one block because everybody wants to be a chief. And I think that that's a form of retardation in our thought process, number one. Number two, we operate like that in every field. I've seen this in business. I've seen this in even like you know, people who do art. Everything we do it like it's the church, and it doesn't work that way. You know, it's no way to have a business ran like a church where you have an alpha male and he's just the head guy making all of the decisions. That's not how you really grow. And I have seen that we have carried the Christian thought process into Al-Islam. So whatever we do as Muslims. So again, it really revolves back to the same issue. So I'm saying that to say you have professionals. A lot of our professionals here have complained that, hey, over the years we've tried to help. But what happens is when we come to the table, they try to just micromanage and dictate to us like they do in the masjid. But look, I run schools. I design curriculum. This is what I do for a living. The imam has a bachelor's degree. I have a PhD in this field. He can't just micromanage every move that I make when he doesn't even know. So that's a real problem that we have. Or something is small. You know, here I do construction, and I know how to do proper repairs to our buildings. Again, here's an imam. He hadn't done so much as pick up a paintbrush, but he's dictating to me how to do this, and this. Obviously, as the leader, he should have he should be within a management capacity, but management is a skill. Management is a skill. So again, I take it back to knowledge. I think there's a certain kind of knowledge that's lacking, even with in terms of management. I mean, Imam Muhammad, he told us, he said that the imams in this association should study business, and we should be studying how the Prophet did things. How did the Prophet manage? For one, you know, just to put it in common terms, how did he manage? Not just how he led, but how did he allow for others to bring out their skills and the excellence of what God had deposited in them. So I think that the more we can do that, as imams or whatever, people of interest, I think the better it will be for us as a community. So I think my phone is overheating.
And I just wanted to say to your point, Imam, like I've even experienced that, in this community, just having a certain skill set and, having, different levels of leadership, like, try to micromanage the thing. And it's like, well, I'm not trying to be cocky, but it's just like, okay, I do this, I have a degree in this. So, I get that. And sometimes it feels like control. And I can see how for some people it would be a turn off. And it's just like, all right, y'all do what y'all do.
Right.
Y'all do what y'all do, and I'm gonna go ahead over here because clearly you don't want my help. So I definitely have seen that and experienced it myself. I kind of happen to be the type of person where it's just like, all right, we gonna figure out how I'm gonna do it anyway.
Right.
But for some people, they're just like, you know what? Go ahead. Y'all run it in the hole. If that's what you want to do, go ahead, run it in the hole. And so what?
Right.
Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about, because Bilal just asked about our professional class, and this sort of, I think, ties into that too. We do have young people that are coming out of our communities, going into college, and then, they get the degree, and a lot of them don't come back and give to the community. And I would just want to offer as a strategy to that, and even our homes and our communities and our masjids, that we emphasize. You said something earlier. You said a lot of us we don't think community. And so my suggestion would be for us to really emphasize in our personal lives with our children, thinking community, because that to me is a display when I talk about sort of going to college, getting your degree, and then not coming back to give that. I think that's sort of where the lack of thinking community shows up for us.
Right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just want to say that real quick before you answer, Imam Rashad. I could speak a little bit towards that. Coming out of undergrad, I think it's two sides to that coin, because I guess it depends also how you were raised. You know what I'm saying? And when I mean raised in terms of your house, your household, in terms of the masjid, even if you were attending a masjid, some people, young people don't even attend a masjid to begin with. So when they go off to college, when they come home, they don't have nothing to come back home to, because they would never attend the masjid to begin with in the first place, like that. But I saw two sides of the coin, because I could speak towards it just a little bit for those who have more so. My thing is for those who have come home to community, and those who have made the attempt to come home to community because we were raised that way. I guess again it goes back to what we said earlier about the micromanaging piece, and those of us who were micromanaged when we came home from undergrad with just a bachelor's degree, and we were micromanaged, with the knowledge that we did, all the skills that we did acquire, and then everyone else who might have got it not scared off, but this got turned off. Excuse me, not even scared. Turned off from that, and they went on to what they wanted to pursue afterwards. So I just like to say that from my perspective, me personally, coming back into this community after I got back from undergrad, I wasn't asking for no red carpet to be rolled out for me, but I knew I had a responsibility, in coming back from undergrad with the skills and just the needed skills that I saw that could be helpful for this community here, specifically here in New York. It kind of fell on deaf ears majority of the time, because you have people who are comfortable with and complacent with what they have, what I'm saying, and they don't really want to ruffle. They want to really not go through the change, because with change comes work and thus involves possibly some risk. And to a lot of these people, a lot of individuals, this is what, quote unquote, this is the only thing that they have left. You know what I'm saying? So they hang tight to the baby. They grapple the institution or whatever, hold tight to the match like a baby, and they don't really want to let it go, or they don't want to seem to be like they're letting it go to someone else, when really that's not the case. No one here is challenging you. No one wants to. We're not asking you to let it go. We're not asking you to leave. You know what I'm saying? We are just asking just to give us a space, or allow us to work in the space to provide those, to give back those necessary skills and talents. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Well, I you know, again, we all have, we're in different places and we have different experiences. I do have a critique though for our younger people. You know, you all are, not you necessarily, Bilal, but that generation, you all in your 20s, and you all are just soft, man. I mean, literally, y'all just soft, man. Grow some skin, brother. Like that's what do I mean by that? You know, the world doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So the first thing we have to do is assess where we want to go and what we want to do. And you want to have an approach based upon that assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that young people, you know, they kind of have an entitled situation. I'm your youth. You should just embrace me. People want you to bring something. And the evidence to me, now this is the evidence to me, that a person is bringing something, is that even when I don't embrace them, or when they're not embraced, they can go off and still produce. I feel bad.
Absolutely.
Saying, wow, I messed up.
Absolutely.
But a lot of them, so what are you saying? You're not embraced by the masjid, then you fade into oblivion? That doesn't make any sense. It probably was a good decision to push you away. I'm just saying. So I see that with a lot of our young people, man, and you all, you know, these young men and women, you all are worldly, man. Y'all, you know, that's another conversation. But I don't believe.
No. Wait, whoa.
Y'all are worldly, man.
Imam,
you all have to become.
You laying the cat at the back. You laying the cat at the bag, Imam.
It's a real thing.
You might as well finish what you started, man. Come on,
I mean,
what you started.
A lot of the younger members in the community, they're just worldly, and they think they know more than they do, and they don't want to pay their dues, and they have sensitive. Not all of them, but I see this a lot because we have a lot of young people here, and I saw this in Milwaukee. And there's a moral inconsistency. There's a moral inconsistency. You know, I have sisters, young sisters say, well, look, I can't find a husband, Imam, I need a husband. And I've actually approached brothers, and the brothers say, well, man, you should see her on Instagram. You know, that's a real thing. So, and I agree with the brothers. I mean, you may consider this. I mean, again, I don't want to get off, but this really fits into what I want to go. No, but I don't want to get off topic. No matter how important. No. Listen to what I'm saying. No matter how important any one point may be to any one of us, we do have a topic. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to get off. I don't want to get off the overall topic. But what I'm about to say does feed into where I think we should be on the topic, which is as a male looking for a wife. It's a certain quality that I want. There's a certain set of characteristics that I look for. And I see in our younger people, you know, they're Muslim when they come to the masjid. And it doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. Now, why does that feed into what I'm about to say? Because really, I think we need to start again. Where our community is, we need to start again. We need to start with the most important, like I said, most important on our agenda to me is education and business. But I think what's at the center of that is family life. I really think that that's where we should be going. If we're going to build the community of Imam Muhammad, and if it is going to have a future, family life has to be of the utmost importance. Because family life is the beginning of man on this earth. And I think that that's what we should be. If you are a brother and you're like above 11, you should be thinking about marriage. Now, if you're 12 and 13, you shouldn't be getting married, but you should be thinking about it. We as fathers, as mothers, we should be preparing. And that goes back to what you were saying, Marsha. We have to prepare our young people. We have to put it upon their minds that you are a part of a community. You come from this history of Black people. You come from this history of the Nation of Islam, Imam W, Muhammad's leadership. We are Muslim. This is what we are. This is what we do. And this is how we do it. I think that that has to be at the core of what's really informing us today. So the emphasis upon family, I really, when the way we structured the questions, I mean, I really wanted to start there. Family is always first. And I think that family has been ignored in our communities. And as a consequence, our masjids and schools have suffered.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I wholeheartedly agree, especially the tie-in with the family and then the masjid in the community, because when you think back to the Nation of Islam, you know, that's how that whole structure was held up. There were families, like we had a few of the Sabris on our show, just recounting their experiences in the Nation of Islam. That they all talked about, and especially when we had Sister Sajda on, they talked about how it was a family thing, right? Like, they talked about, you know, this person joining from the family and this person joined, and you know, I was joking, and I'm just like, y'all run deep, don't nobody want to fight with y'all, but it was a family thing.
Right.
And when you look at the and I haven't been to tons of masjids, but the ones I've been in, you don't really see that. And even when I hear people recount stories in our masjids, I'm kind of like, well, where are those people at?
Right.
You know, where are they? Like, you tell me what was so great, and you tell me that the school was booming, and this person was in the masjid. And I remember even in my work meeting people, and I was talking to a sister one day, and I didn't know she was Muslim, you know, and she had given me the salams, and then she had asked what masjid I go to, and I told her, and she goes, 25. And I'm like, yeah, because everybody, you know, from back in the day would say masjid 25 or temple 25. And you know, then you just start hearing the stories about how it was so great, and it was this, and it was that, and it was the third. And I'm just like, but where are all those people? Like, I use this I guess example, I don't know what I want to call it right now, but I use it in different other platforms. Like, sometimes we let our children's hand go too soon. You know, we kind of just let them go to the world.
Right.
And then we expect them to do something that we sort of release them from. Well,
right.
That doesn't make a lot of sense either.
That's right. That's right. And
Yeah.
I really do. I think that, I mean, again, so when I think this problem, because I think that, you know, we tend to not even see ourselves as African Americans anymore. We do when it's time to, you know, say it's Black power. But I think that
Right.
what I mean by that, we have the same problems that African American people have, but we do have answers. I do think we have access to answers that these other African Americans don't, because of our unique experience in this community, how we have been taught. But we still are manifesting the same, meaning that we're not taking the medicine. So that has to happen. But family life, I'm telling you, you know, that's a big thing for me. You know, if you're a Muslim, you need to have, if you're a Muslim man, you have to, again, think in community. Look, I'm not going to marry a Christian woman. I'm just not. I'm not going to marry a Mexican. Let's take it all the way and go all across the spectrum. You have to have a devotion to your group. And if you don't, I mean, if you don't, then you're a weak link. So I think that where we are, again, even when we talk about the meetings that we're going to be having, I told some of the brothers, look, man, if you all have sons of a certain age, bring your son. They could sit there. We don't want them talking because they don't know anything. You know, you got a 9-year-old contributing. That's so cute. No, we don't want you to say anything. Don't speak until you get a wife, but you're supposed to be here all of these years. That's how it goes. we need to have a tradition of putting this stuff into action. So that's really where I am. And family is most important, because what happens is, if the imam is a bad guy and we don't go out, we can still meet as families. We can still meet at sister so-and-so's home, brother so-and-so's home. We can still have our children come together. We can still identify as a group of Muslims, despite the fact that there may be broader community problems. But if we're not even functioning as families and as human beings who love one another, that's where the problem starts. And I think that all of the issues that we spoke of the last time, how, you know, after Imam Muhammad passed away, what happened with his wife, how she was mistreated, how it wasn't efficiently addressed, how the imams didn't address certain things that should have been addressed. I think all of it is indicative of something that's lacking at a human level. You know, what can I quote from the Quran that you shouldn't, you know, that shouldn't already automatically register in your mind? Like, wow, the imam's wife is being mistreated. Why should I pull out a verse? You're a human. You wouldn't want nobody mistreating your wife. So there's something that's lacking at a human level. And when I mean at a human level, I'm talking about these basic social sensitivity, community sensitivities that we should have. We don't have to go into analyzing how it's gotten there, but I think for us today, you young people, you know, marriage, you all need to get married, and you and go into business, learn the religion, etc., as family men, as family women. And I think that Allah will bless us from that basis, from that standpoint.
So nice, you gotta say it twice. Any questions or comments from the audience? You're welcome to join in the conversation. We see quite a few comments. I don't know if we want to pull up. It was a nice one earlier. It was a little lengthy in reference to
pull up brother Omar, man.
A community.
You said it. Pull him up, man. Pull him up.
A community vision. I won't pull up on the screen because the whole thing won't fit on the screen. So I had to.
Right.
I think I took a picture of it. I gotta find it. Are you able to pull up on your side? I can't pull up on my side right now.
Well, we can start.
But that's only part of it.
Oh, it's not the whole thing. Okay.
I can start it.
I got you. Go ahead. You can start it.
Assalamu alaikum
Yeah.
to all. New Africa consciousness is a morally based self-consciousness / nation-building process that addressing the particular spiritual / social issues impacting the human development of the Africa diaspora Muslims of America as community development movement and model for the social / moral development process leading to spiritual / intellectual renaissance in the African diaspora experience. Educationally speaking, in my humble opinion, we engage and embrace the
hold on.
The continuous, I think it's continuous. I think that's the word, the continuous. Aki, come on, man.
Patience.
Yeah, I'll go back up where I see it at. Educationally speaking, in my humble opinion, we engage and embrace the continuing development of those educational institutions to establish an intellectual renaissance in the educational process over time. Economically speaking, we must attack the 21st century or 21st STEM economy with new emphasis on scientific knowledge in all areas. Also, the Africa diaspora Muslim communities, business engagement globally, both in Africa and the Muslim world. Politically, the new Africa generation must engage the global Muslim community for both political representation, businesses related to technology. Join us in conversation and continuing building the outreach strategy to both the Muslim and non-Muslim national community. The New Africa National Congress Incorporated welcomes your input and critique of the development vision. So I guess that's a brother who's calling out from what they're doing in relation to what we are discussing.
Yeah, it was a little. Yeah, that was a little wordy. But I think I agree. If I I'm saying it's a wordy because it's hard. Sometimes it's hard for me to hear, and I'm trying to navigate what's being said. But I think he's saying the right things. Yeah. Again, though, with all of that, I think I agree with most of what I heard. Again, I hope that when we come together, again, family life is the core. Family, I'm telling you, family, that's the beginning of man on this earth. And as Allah said, as it, he begins creation and repeats it. We cannot do it without family life. And I think that's just where we have to be. When we even talk about wealth and generational wealth and business life, etc. These things, as a matter of fact, there was a guy. He actually was in organized crime, and his position was he felt that the African American. Now, mind you, we don't want to model us. This is what's in my mind. I was having this conversation earlier. That's why that he believed that even the African American organized crime wasn't as successful as the other ethnic groups simply because we don't come from strong family life. They just have it to whereas, hey, this guy's the authority. We're a group. One of our success is the group success, so on and so forth. So it's very hard for us to build anything. So I do believe that's where I want to see emphasis. And we have a lot of potential. We have all the gifts in the world. We definitely have knowledge. We definitely have the knowledge. But again, I would like to see us, no matter how philosophically deep or far we can go, it has to be on a solid foundation. There's a principle in religious Islamic studies and just in studies in general. There is no structuring upon a weak foundation. There just is no. That's for an idea. That's for a speech you're trying to you're delivering a speech, whatever you're trying to do. And we know it comes from the natural world. No matter how big and beautiful this house is, if the foundation is weak, that structure will collapse in time. So for people, their foundation has to be in faith in God, devotion to God, and family life. So that's the first step of strategy for advancing the community of Imam Muhammad. I think we should be looking at. So and a lot of that's on you, brothers. Period. Man, you have to get you a wife. I don't understand. I get cold very easily, so I can't be. I can't be in my house with no woman. Man, that's not going to work. And if you have a woman, you should treat her at a certain way. But you sisters, you have to treat your men a certain way. So these things to me have to be addressed too, because African Americans, we're very abnormal. We're very abnormal. Maybe in the future shows we can talk about in the nature of strategy. What are the problems we face for our family life? For example, we have a female dominated social environment. We're the only race on the planet Earth that has that. And that's a problem. Our women are leading our men. That's a real problem. And this has nothing to do with the women. It has something to do with them, but not in terms of their performance. It has an issue with the performance of our males. So these are the things that I think we really should zero in on going into the future. If we really want to make progress, I think these are the things we have to look at. Our women are getting education. They're starting businesses. They're doing all types of things, man. And men is sitting here talking about, the mothership is coming back. They don't, there's time out for that stuff.
Well, since I was thinking about that old language, or the language we used to call the royal family, right? Where it was somewhat of a reordering of how we see family life and respect for family. But you've been addressed all along. But can you just tie that language in and I guess give explanation?
Well, we know the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's family. That's how they were identified, and we know Imam Muhammad he did away with that. But I do think that that one author, Ibrahim Odom, Izzeddin Odom, who wrote that book Black Nationalism, was kind of ethnographic study of the Nation of Islam. He made note in that book that the unique thing about the Nation of Islam was that it was one of the unique aspects of it as a social movement was that it was patriarchal, which, as we know, the dominant picture of the African American community has been matriarchal. And again, we're the only ones that have that issue. So the Nation of Islam was structured in a way where the father was the head of the household. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Now, that has been subverted since the days of the Nation of Islam. If you watch the cultural trends that have come out, again, I don't want to get off the subject, but this is important. Family life, etc., is another subject on its own. If we watch even television programming, like a friend of mine, he was in town the other day. We were talking about different television shows, even the Cosby Show. His wife really told him what to do when you really look at it. And there was a lot of emphasis on male-female dynamics. So you had Bud and Rudy. She would always get the better of him, but he was a chauvinist. Then you had Elvin. He was a chauvinist. And then Sandra got the better. It was always that thing. And the brother, he said, the only show where the father was a dominant character was Good Times. he was broke.
Yes, they was in the project struggling.
Yeah, I never watched Good Times. So when he told me, I just fell out laughing. But even with President Obama and Michelle Obama, when every time an African American male or black male is presented to the public, they find a way to lift up his wife. Even her book. I mean, her book came out before his book. I mean, they literally have lifted up Michelle. I think she's like the most popular Democrat or something like that, some type of statistic. And when you tell the average African American woman that, they say, "Well, how come it can't be both?" I've actually done this to test it out. They say, "Well, how come it can't be both?" They're not seeing what's happening. And it's the way, it's not, it's in those moments, I didn't have time to go into it. But we have to understand that the Satan is real. And of all, we talked about this, you all, we're studying, of all of the sins that the Satan wishes to promote, what he wants to work against most is family. This is the teaching of the prophet. And Imam Muhammad said that he felt that the African American community, we are the worst victims of the schemes of Satan. And look at our family condition. We're worse off more than, again, the scripture says, kill the sons, let the women live. I don't see any other people where that exemplify that more than us. And we see how you have to look at these things, how you have a Gayle King interviewing an R. Kelly. It should be a man interviewing R. Kelly. If a man violates my daughters, I'm not going to send my wife to check them. I'm going to check them. So the image that should be presented, if there's a black man that needs to be checked as to how he mistreats the black woman, it should be another African American man. They purposely present a woman tearing down her own man. And we're just in la la land, Well, I don't want to go, like I said, that's another topic. But we have to understand, I'm saying that to say, to properly strategize, we have to also know that there are strategies in play against us. We're not the only one. When you play chess, there's an opponent, and he's watching your moves, and he's seeking to check your moves or defeat your moves. So again, what did Imam Muhammad say? He said that they were convinced, they were dead set on making sure that the African American community did not produce another Malcolm, and did not produce another Dr. King. So what we see happening as cultural influences in the African American community has been for the purpose of stopping any momentum to produce a leader of the magnitude of those that we had in times past. This is why purposefully Imam Muhammad's language was kept out of the public environment. They had Farrakhan all over the place, everywhere. But they kept in the leaders in the black community they had a meeting, and they made a decision that they were going to keep Imam Muhammad. They had a decision. We either going to go with Farrakhan or we're going to go with Imam W. Muhammad. They chose Farrakhan. Very few African Americans like Tony Brown, and later on they shunned Tony Brown as well. He loved Imam Muhammad. He wrote it. He spoke about him in his books. He did interviews highlighting him, etc. But so we have to watch the field to know what's really going on. The scheme has been, and it remains, to keep the African American male weak, to keep the African American family weak. And they do it how? Again, cultural strategies, legislation, etc. So as we plan, we have to plan with that in mind. We have to know, you can't play basketball if you don't know the rules. So I throw you the ball and you take it and run with it like a football. We're never going to win with you on the team. That's how we have to approach this thing.
So I just wanted to take a minute to revisit our strategies thus far, and if I miss a few, just let me know, because as we're talking, the purpose of this was to present some strategies, and so I just want to recount for everyone who's watching and listening what we sort of put out there as strategies. One of them was to study, right? You say this is what you believe, this is what you follow, then you should know it. Get married. When we talked about the value of family life and how everything sort of stems from that. So if we're not creating family from these marriages, then what are we doing? We also talked about engaging in business, and that for the benefit of, obviously, for taking care of your family, but also for supporting the masjids and supporting the schools. We talked about utilizing our professional class and not, I'll just say that, just utilizing our professional class. And then we also emphasize thinking community. So those are the strategies that I kind of got from what we've been discussing here. So I just wanted to take a minute to point those out again, so that in our conversation, we just know that we are creating strategies. I don't want us to get away from the fact that we are presenting options to the community for how we move the needle forward. I have a question about how do we bring the people together to do some of this, right? So we say engage in business, or we talk about utilize our professional class, but what are some ideas for bringing those people together?
So that's what I wanted to transition into. The first thing I think that we should do as families, we should be meeting with our families. So if it is a father with his wife and children, if it's his brothers and sisters, however, like you said, the Sabris had a whole crew, there should be family meetings, at least weekly. If not every other week, there should be family meetings discussing the life of the family and its future. There should be an imam of the family, meaning that there should be a male, particularly, who is at least directing. It could be a female who's having the most input, etc. I'm not saying it like that, but there should be a male, just like the male has to call the adhan and gather the people for prayer and call the iqamah. There should be a male that summons the family together, and they should be laying out what are issues or matters of importance for them. So that could be, if they wanted to start a family business, it may just be the simple fact of, hey, I need some help with the nephews because, I can't reach them. I'm a single mother, whatever it may be. I think that's the start. We have to family meet. There's a brother here in Atlanta. He does big business. One of the things that impresses me about him, they have a family meeting every week. And I think when they reach the age of 13, every member has to present a contribution to a plan that they have, which is it's a 300-year plan for the family. And every member at the age of 13 has to present what they're going to do to add another 300 years. So that's a very strong tradition that they have. I think that the Salat, Fajr especially, and the Salats at the end of the day are designed for that. We tend to just close out and go back to watching Pokemon or something like that, or whatever people watch nowadays, Martin. But at least for some of those prayers, especially as men, we should be leading the discussion. If it's just mothers, then the same. That's number one. Number two, I think that the women, you all have an obligation to meet with one another. And we do these things. To me, a lot of this stuff is corny. I'm not like the average, you all get these imams. I don't think people know how I really am. I hear a lot of imams, like, mashallah, let's sit around and do this. To me, that stuff is super corny. Don't invite me to that. I'm not going to come. Let's talk about some real stuff, man. So if our women should be getting together saying, how are we going to make sure first of all, how are we going to, what is our role as wives and as mothers? And again, that's a problem with our younger females. For some reason, they see that as a low thing. So this is the need for education. We need to be researching the religion to find out what is it that God has prescribed for us specifically as women, as wives, and as mothers. And there needs to be wisdom shared from the older to the younger, and experiences shared from the younger to the older, because perhaps there are some things that the younger have to undergo that the elders don't know. Now, this can be done in the family too, but this can also be done outside of the community. Men need certain things. Again, I have friends who do business. I have some handsome friends. I know that I've watched women. Like I said, I had a friend in town. I watch how women treat him. Now, if he has to deal with that, and these are not, this is in Atlanta. These are not, women from the swamp. Now, if he has to go home and he has to kickbox with his wife, this does something. His psyche is not empowered to perform the way it's supposed to perform. And there is wisdom that women have that can situate them to feed the spirit of their husbands. Those types of meetings need to be had between women. If we're going to meet at the masjid, a women's meeting, we should be talking about that. You all should be talking about sex. You sisters shouldn't be wearing your scarf in the house and not putting on lotion. That's a real thing. I don't care what anybody says, man. They say this stuff, oh, you shouldn't have. No, these brothers go on Instagram, etc. They paint those girls, man. I was at this place on a vacation. I saw them paint those girls. And them women had that old flawless. Don't nobody have no real skin like that. But these young men, they in their mind, that's the reality. Right. Then they come home to Sister Shabazz and she don't put on lotion. That's a problem.
And got her scarf on.
And she got her. Now you all think that's you see? So now it's sensitive. That's why I don't like talking about it, because it really should be another sister saying this.
Yeah, it's true though. It's true. For sure, it's true.
And I'm telling you as a male, and I talk to the brothers all the time, that's a real thing. You think it's petty, and your husband at home like, no, sister, I don't care how ashy you are. He's a liar. He's lying. No, sister, you could be ashy. That's not true. Doing our hair, so on and so forth. Those are real things. The men should meet. The men in the family, and then the men at the community level. That's a real thing. The men should meet and be discussing if it's whatever the community obligations are. So how can we take care of? Maybe we're not in a position to marry all of our women, but can we at least ante up and make sure that they're taken care of financially? Can we make sure that their sons have some type of mentor attention? What can we do as men to make sure that the bonds of the community life are held together and kept in place? So again, first you want to do that for the brothers in your family. The second phase was to do that as a community. Can we take some of these young brothers under our wing and mentor them? What is the state of the masjid? We're supposed to be making sure the masjid, like if the masjid collapses, that's really not on the sisters. It's for the brothers to make sure the adhan is called, the prayers are led, there's an imam in place, so on and so forth. The sisters will be there. That's just the nature of our sisters. They're going to be there to support. But the men have to understand that the actual material condition and protection of our communities, are our elderly, are our women, are our children actually protected and cared for? They should be meeting upon that basis. If they can do once a month, that's a positive start locally. I'm not for, these meetings where we get together and there's, culture night on Friday, fashion show. That we don't need that anymore. I think I mentioned that before. Let's table that for about a decade and let's do basic stuff. Unless we can have a cultural get together where we get together for a weekend just on the emphasis of culture. But I think that for practical purposes, we need to be meeting as families, as communities, as men and as women separately, together and separate, identifying what issues are and coming up with ways to address it. Men should be taught what do women like. The older men can help inform us. hey, this is how sisters are. This is what they need. And there's wisdom from our Imam. He taught on these things for years about how the home should be ordered. Who has the authority in the home? What is the male's primary objective? When you get into an argument or when you get to those heated moments, how do you handle that as a husband? How do you manage your own anger? If she's trying to all of these basic things, I think that's where we should be starting at, meeting with that as a basic focus.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. So yeah, I mean, I love everything that we discussed today. I think is all on point, and my sincerest dua would be that we take what we learned today or we heard today, and we put them into practice in our locales, right? Because sometimes you walk away from conversations like this and nothing happens, right? And so I think what we're saying here today is that, well, if you want to see something better, then it's up to us to do it. Here's some ideas for how to approach it, and let's do what we need to do. Now, it remains to be seen what comes out of it, but our hope and our prayer is that we take the responsibility that's given to us and we put these things into practice. And one of the things you said earlier, I just wanted to, I didn't write it down, but I do remember what you said. You said, we don't take the medicine. And I thought that was so profound because we do have a blueprint. I think Bilal said it earlier, like we have a blueprint. It's just that we're not following it. And I guess, we just got away from it. So I also feel like this conversation is a reminder, right? We go to Juma on Fridays. That's the reminder. That's the reminder to discuss those things that we know are key, that we should be living a certain way according to the Quran. And so this conversation for me is serving as a reminder, and it's just important that we have more of these conversations. And I look forward to us having a conversation in relation to, like we talked earlier about women and men and, all that kind of stuff. We need to have those conversations, because when you leave people off to themselves to do whatever, you're going to get whatever. And I hear a lot of people talk about, coming up in the nation and having MGT class and, different things like that, having the FOI and having that teaching. They were actually taught to how to, take that transition into manhood and into womanhood. That's not happening on a community level. And in some instances, it's not happening in the home. And so, again, this conversation is a reminder. So even for us just bringing it up, I hope that we're then sitting back and saying, well, where's my family in relation to all that's being discussed? What can we do differently? As you're talking, I'm like, oh, wait, as soon as we get off of here, I got to go talk to my daughters and say, okay, wait, we got to schedule a family meeting every so often. What day y'all want to do it? What time? Usually I hear something and I come back to them with it, and they're like, "Oh boy, who done told her something?" but this kind of conversation is it sort of gives you that boost and that energy to go ahead and do something, because then if you are a conscious thinking person, you don't just sit back from this conversation and do nothing, because then we're in the same position.
Right. Yeah. I thought Bilal was gonna say. I thought
know he's too quiet today. He's too quiet today.
He want to get juicy. Come on, Bilal.
I'm taking it in, man. I mean, just listening, man. I mean, there's tangible items that have been suggested, and obviously, I think from this conversation alone, this is not the end all be all conversation either. Like it's not a one-off. I think none of these conversations are one-off conversations that we have had so far since we started this platform. This engagement. This is not a one-off. This is all a build-up, and it's meant for everyone that's listening. And like even the Prophet said during his last sermon, his last khutbah that he gave to the believers, that for those who were not present at the last conversation that he shared with them, to share that message to those who weren't present. So for those who are not for those who are present, we have 37 people that have tuned in, and we have people who have dropped off, came in. I understand, but for those 30 something people who have been stable in this room, we're asking you all to commit, to some of these actionable items, and we actually will share some. We're going to share these actionable items out to our page and out through our socials, in a nice way, so therefore beloveds can come back and actually take that into your house, take that into your communities all around the country, and actually implement some of these things, versus just being a one-off conversation. And of course, we have our follow-up group, which is our WhatsApp conversation, because we like to keep the conversations going past this, past this time, and keep them flowing. We have a couple new faces that joined us from last week's juicy conversation, and I'm sure that we'll have some more familiar faces or new faces come and greet us, and let's build, let's build from here. And I think that I think some of the takeaways, the biggest takeaway for me is it's the family aspect. It's the establishment of a family institution and having a healthy family institution, because without that right there, everything else is kind of not. Everything else is not going to happen. You're not going to get the education, and the mothers are the first teachers, to our children and to the generations, and you're not going to get that either at home, hardly. So without family, you not no education, no business, no religious education. I mean, this for me personally, and I think for a lot of us here, a lot of those who are listening, we have, some of us had great parents, or great guardians, who instilled in us practices of Al-Islam. Even if you didn't come into Al-Islam, if you came from the church, there was some good practices instilled into you from the church, and we've gotten away from those good practices that go across the board. You know what I'm saying? And with this conversation tonight, I think we see the need to establish ourselves family wise, and to strengthen ourselves family wise, and then build from there.
And I just want to say something too. I mean, I know time is winding down. Yeah. I just caution us. I was going to say this earlier. I do want to caution us. Sometimes we want, because you'll get a response. I know they were reaching out to you. I know you shared with me some people had reached out to you, Bilal, about the conversation that we had the last time. And I remember, Mohammed, he said that there was this brother in Chicago. You could hear him on a lot of tapes. He'd be in the background like, "That's right, go ahead, there it is." He'd be saying that a lot. And he would say, he's a good brother, but when Imam will start talking about symbolism and stuff like that, that's when you'll hear him. But when Imam will be talking about plain stuff, profound but plain, you wouldn't hear him on the tape. But when Imam started talking about, and this is this, and this is why this, and they did this, that's right, go ahead. So Imam said he's really saying in the background, "Hey man, stay in that groove." That's what I like. But this is a problem that's identified in the Quran. Sometimes we prefer. Of course, it's talking about the allegorical and the plain. Sometimes we prefer juicy stuff. Let's point out which Imam is wrong and what they did wrong.
No, that's not the type of juice. That's not the type of juice we talking about, man.
Yeah, so we don't want to do that.
All the good juice.
We want to look at. I think that basics. We can deal with it. We can deal with basics much more easily. And much more immediately than we can deal with, the national, the imams and all of this, and leadership is local. These are issues. But when we look at what can we do, the first thing is you want to look at, and this is my critique. I mean, you hear guys, they say this stuff all the time. Oh, they're not doing this or they're not doing that. You hear these complaints. And my first mind is always, well, show me what you're doing that's better. What are you doing? So that's really where we want to be. That's where we want to be. And we shouldn't have these conversations to impress anybody, because that's not what it's about. We don't build community life for God. We build community life. We don't do it showboating. or wanting to have an entertainment platform so people can come back and, oh, I like what they got to say. They making me feel good. Now, we don't need that. Like Imam Muhammad said, I would rather 200,000. I'm sorry. I, I would rather 200 strong, devoted, sincere worshipers behind me than 200,000 pieces of garbage. So we don't need, we don't want to entertain. We want to talk about the real stuff. Well, the real stuff that's straightforward and straight up.
So we do have posted in the comments some of the actionable items that Sister Marsha have taken notes on. So take a look at those. You're also welcome to share and give us feedback. We did put in the link of the WhatsApp. We also do have a survey that we put together. It actually came about, actually me and Marsha over a year ago now. We were actually planning for a Muslim state conference in New Jersey and pre-COVID. And we were looking at doing an assessment of our community needs, wants, and so forth and so on. And so we put together a somewhat of a questionnaire to gauge and get opinions and interests from our community. So we still have that link available, and we'll put that in the comments as well as a way to contribute to this collective conversation as well as strategy session for the future.
Just want to again thank everyone for tuning in. I see some. Just want to highlight a couple comments from a couple people. Wa alaikum salam. That's the Khalid Al Hakim. Thank you for tuning in, brother out from out there in Michigan. Do want to highlight a few people here that I saw pop in. Shout out to brother Salahuddin. Mohammed, may Allah reward you all for the great job that you are doing. Goodness is on the rise. Thank you, brother. Shukran. Shout out to brother Abdul Shahid. Praise be to Allah. Do you all realize that you're helping to establish Muslim TV, Muslim social media? A great job and great character from you all. Appreciate you, brother Abdul Shahid, for sharing. So I just want to do shout out those individuals for tuning in, and definitely appreciate all of our regular listeners for tuning in. Those who are regulars, those who will come repeatedly and shown much feedback and much appreciation to the platform, and do try to engage with us, and we appreciate the community that we're building here, even on this platform, because this is a community, even though it's a small microcosm or a sample size, if you would, but it's a great way to start. And most things start small, believe it or not. I don't want to be long-winded, but the Nation of Islam didn't start with 2 million people, beloveds. And then start when Farad met with Elijah. Farad said, "Go fish me some people, man." Yes, I'm saying, go out there and go fishing, man. It wasn't. They didn't start out. They had to go get signatures. I heard he had to go get signatures, man. He got to get people. You got to get people registered, man. So it wasn't like immediately we start out with 2 million people, man. So I'm saying it wasn't like he didn't wake up like that. So to take community, it takes time. And over those years, look at what they built, and look what was left to the Imam when we transitioned over. It was beautiful, and there's no reason why, we should remain stagnant and comfortable, because the Imam wouldn't allow us to be comfortable and stagnant. So I'm saying, no way. I don't think it was in the spirit. So I'm saying to allow us to be stagnant and comfortable, man. So we have a responsibility to ourselves, to our families, and to this, and actually we're in debt. So I'm saying we're in big debt to those who paved the way for us, man. So I'm saying, we're in debt towards, establishing good, wholesome Muslim life, and good human. When we say good Muslim life, good human life, man. Good quality human life in this country that's be a model for across the world. So I'm saying, and it starts with us, us little people, because we were thought to be little people, man. We were thought to be underneath everybody. But look how Allah blessed us to have quality leaders come. We gotta
I'm about to
Shout
say
out
you got
Sister
to throw
Maxine.
Sister
Oh,
Maxine
Sister
in there.
Maxine in the
You got to throw
building.
her in there. That's
When
not
your Sister
regular Sister
Maxine pop up,
Maxine.
you got to stop what you're saying, man.
Living
Acknowledge your
warrior right
sister.
there.
Acknowledge
Living
your
warrior.
sister. She's a living, and Sister Maxine. I don't want to toot our horn, but she's a beautiful spirit in this community.
Absolutely.
She is a trailblazer. She has supported the Imam. She has supported since the first. She has supported the Imam throughout the transition. She has supported many of the initiatives that we have had in this community. And at her age, may Allah preserve her. May Allah bless her. At her age, she's the battery. What you call it?
Energizer Bunny.
Like the Energizer Bunny, man. I've never seen like I'm saying, like, Allah is merciful, man. Allah is really merciful, and we have to reproduce more Sister Maxines and more men like Sister Maxine. So I'm saying, with that same spirit and that same drive and that same energy. So I'm saying, because we saw this article about New Medina. It's kind of old. It's wishing the Washington Post about the concern about the future, and that's a very old community down there in terms of age. It's a very old community down there. So, we have some opportunities, man. We have some opportunities, and I think that we are in a good space. And COVID has allowed us to slow down on our daily routines and allow us to do some introspective work and reflection. So let's take advantage of it, because when COVID is over, when this thing is over, this should be like, we're gonna bust now, but like, we should, once this COVID thing is over, like, we off to the races. The rocket ship is gonna leave. The mothership is gonna leave, man.
The mothership.
We're all on board, man. But I'm gonna be quiet. But I definitely appreciate this conversation this evening. I definitely and wait, hold on, we can't leave out announcements. The Imam spoke about it. The Imam spoke about it, and the sisters are doing something. So let's bring up the sisters, man.
Is that me and my girls?
Yes, of course.
Me and my girls.
The Sisters in Service educational program is called IQRA. Stands for Islamic Quranic and Reading Academy. Presents the Islamic Youth Weekend School. Topics for our youth include the 5 pillars of Islam, Arabic lessons, Quranic studies, the life/sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad with dynamic teachers and special guest speakers. Open house is February 7th, 2021 from 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern. Sessions start the 14th of that month, and it's weekly, Sundays from 10 to 11, and it will be via Zoom. And reach out to the one and only Sister Marsha, Sister Hassana, as well. Their emails is here. Well, Marsha's here, so you can reach out to us too, or reach out to Marsha personally, and she can help facilitate that. Yeah, we have to shout out the sisters, man.
And I just wanted to say, absolutely. Shout out to my sisters. Also a part of that group is Shay Suleiman, Amina Bey, and Sultana Whitfield, that along with me and Hassana Shaw. And I just wanted to kind of say too that a component of that program that we have is that towards the end of our sessions, we're going to have guest speakers come on and just kind of give us their history in the community, like a 10-minute spot, their history in the community, and whatever they want to share with us. So we'll be looking to you all to invite you to a Sunday so that the children get to know who's in the community. We talk a lot about the generational divide, right, in this community, and so that's a way to sort of connect the generation so that the children get to know who's in the community, especially our older population, so that it feels like one big family. So we're looking forward to that. I'm excited.
Yeah. Also, don't forget, please, beloveds, do not forget to support us. Patron to support this expansion of our digital services, digital platform. Patreon.com/NFX Daily. There's several tiers there that you can come under, and they come with perks or incentives rather for your donation. And all your donations will help to the growth of this platform to continue to produce. Also, don't forget about the Bilalian Trust, which is the digital our digital efforts for preservation of a lot of our heritage pieces that we have had. Pioneers have given us some of their archival information that they would like to be digitized and turned over, if you would, for the benefit of future generations to come in this community and for the general public. So paypal.me/Bilalian Trust. All your donations will be appreciative as it goes to expanding that. Also, did not forget about is New Freedom Pie taking orders. Are y'all open back up yet? Are y'all live or no?
Probably for African American History Month.
Okay, so New Freedom Pie. In the meantime, get your taste buds teased by going to Facebook, New Freedom Pie, and also Instagram, New Freedom Pie. Get your monies ready, because in February they will be ready to go and they'll launch. And we cannot forget our beloved Tariq Touré, David's Dollar. His book is still available for purchase. He has sold out the first time. He's trying to sell out again. Actually, his book is going to be available in other bookstores as well. It's illustrated by our beloved sister in our community, Sister Anika Sabri. So please support our brother Tariq Touré at davidsdollar.com, where you can purchase the book for your kids, because it's really good. We have it. I have it. I have a copy. So does Deen. Marsha, you have a copy, right?
Of course.
Marsha has a copy. Can't forget that. And we can't forget about our beloved Sharif Abdul Malik, but really not about him per se. It's really about what he has done with WeBuyBlack.com. And that platform is ever growing. And you want to support that. They have the detergent, the true detergent, the Coral Oral toothbrushes, the light bulbs, the pain rub, the natural pain rub, the shampoo and conditioner, all your needs basically right here, right now. WeBuyBlack.com. Go ahead and go check it out and support. Also, we have a new book by a sister who I know out of, I think she's back up in Baltimore now. She's an herbalist, Sister Amira Rahim. This is her book called Sam, the Junior Herbalist, Book 1, The Case of the Tummy Troubles. That's written by her and illustrated by her twin sister. Was done with the illustrations. I don't have the site with me, but I think it's on Amazon. Sorry, I'm hitting the wrong buttons. I think it's on Amazon. But please go support her. Check her out. She's on Facebook as Angela Rahim as well, so you can go check that out as well. That's it for my announcements. Unless you guys got any more before we close out.
Just the Kashabi concert.
Oh yeah,
it's coming up.
I don't have the flyer for Kashabi's concert.
I just put the link. Yeah, I just put the link in the comments.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can order your tickets there. Also, his as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, his album is on the car. You just pop it open.
You said it's like four. You said it's like 4 albums, right? Or is that compilation?
Yeah,
it's like one big file?
Actually, it's 5. State of the Ummah,
Wow,
Nadia, Panjay. I don't know how to pronounce that. Black Silk, Volume 1 and 2, and then the Thai sessions. Check them out.
Yeah, check out our brother Kashabi.
You could go from here maybe to California and listen to the whole joint. I mean, straight.
Probably
straight ride.
Probably could.
Or maybe a flight.
Yeah, maybe a flight. But shout out to brother Kashabi. Also, we're continuing our series with Birth into a Nation, growing into community. For those who are tuned in and would like to share a story with us and the believers, and for the general public, please DM us, message us, or leave a comment, and we can schedule time. I think our next brother is Brother Suleiman Salam Jr. Reached out to us from the last conversation. He tuned in to the last conversation, Sister Sabri, so he wants to get a piece of the action. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna give him a platform to share his stories with us as well, and anyone else. And also, we're gonna be coming out. Jada, I saw you in the comments, so we want to bring you up next. We're going to start a series specifically for those like myself, yourself, those who were born strictly into the community of Imam Muhammad, to get your experience, to get some of the things that you would like to see coming from our community, etc. So we're going to plug you in. So don't go running, sister. So I'm coming towards you. You know, so I'm saying with my ask and my request.
We'll be calling her out.
Well, I mean, she tuned in.
I'm
She's a
joking.
loyal
I'm joking.
supporter of us. So we want to support the sister and give the people a platform to express both generations, because we're a cross generational platform. But anyway, that. I'm done, man. Let me be quiet, man. We end up being here for 3 hours.
Oh,
I mean,
close the report.
I was gonna say, as we close out, I just wanted to say, let's be intentional about our aim for growth and for repairing the broken pieces of our community. Like I said earlier, a lot of times we have these conversations and then nothing happens. But my request is that we remain intentional with everything we do. And that we, if you're on the path and you're doing some great things, and sometimes, you kind of get off track, don't be discouraged, just get back on track and keep it moving. But we never want to see you fall to the wayside, because we need you all. You all have great gifts. We're wonderful people. We're talented people. I know that we have everything that we need to get to where we need to go. I just want you to know that sometimes other people see things in us that we don't see in ourselves. And I just ask that you take time to look and see just how wonderful and special that Allah created you to be, and the gifts that He gave you, because He did instill some things in you that you may not be utilizing. But it wouldn't, for you to utilize those things is not just beneficial to you and your family, but to the community as a whole. So search inside, find it, put it into action. Let's go do some great things.
Okay, Brother Dean. Oh, sorry, Imam. What do you want to say?
So we're not spinning the wheel.
Spinning the wheel?
Oh, you want the wheel?
Oh, you was looking for that wheel today.
We don't have anything.
What's the next topic? Do we know yet?
We have to present new topics for this year. We kind of finished all the ones from last year.
Gotcha.
So we could create a new list and then put the wheel out. Wheel of Faith.
Last thing I was doing, that wheel. He was like, "Wait, what's the wheel?"
I think
everybody's talking about family. I think the family piece.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that today, so that may be a natural next conversation.
I think you should. I think you should.
Okay, let's do it. Family life.
Let's talk about family life.
Next community conversation.
Next community conversation. Family life. That's what it is. So. Anyway, Dean, can someone close us out with dua? I've closed out already. So can we spin the wheel on that? Come on, close us out in the dua, man.
Whoever said it did it.
What? What are you talking about? Come on, man.
I think we're telling you to do it.
Come on, Dean.
No, it's cool. But what I was gonna say, I'll say the dua. What I was gonna say in closing is that if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, and if it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be valuable. So never think that what we're discussing and what we've been going through in our community evolution or elevation that it goes for nothing. So that's all I will say on that. The dua that was taught by Imam here.
Oh, wait, hold on. Before you do the dua, one last thing. The closing statement. I mean, the closing announcement. Before everyone leaves, after we close the dua. No. Come on. One more. The closing song. The closing song for today. No, I have to shout out the sister, man.
Go ahead.
New freestyle from Sister Misunderstood that we will play after the dua. So we don't want you guys to leave. Okay, so we want you guys to show some respect to the sister, and show her some love, and run her views up on YouTube. Okay, now you can close out.
سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. And is glorious to our Lord, the Lord of honor and power above, highly above all. Peace be upon the messengers, and praise the praise belongs to Allah, the Lord of all systems of knowledge.
Amen.
I'm so glad you ain't want to make the dua, Bilal.
What?
You heard you loud and clear.
Yeah, well, anyway, it's called a rotation of the kingdom, man.
They got still this one joint. I did have one joint. It got a little sticky. I was about to put in the house Negro and the field Negro, but that would be for another time.
For who? Not for me, right?
It would have been a bloopers.
Night.
Okay. Anyway, it's
beautiful names by Misunderstood.
Yes.
Check her out on YouTube.
Until next time, peace. Assalamu alaikum.
should worship Allah alone and not man. He's Ar-Rahim and Ar-Rahman, Al-Malik and As-Salam, the conqueror. No one could do what he can, the creator and designer of the land, the undefeatable. Understand? The first, the last, the guide to the right path. Al-Razak, Al-Latif and Al-Haq, the aware. So you should be making your salat Al-Kareem when you ain't God, all seeing, all hearing, all knowing, witness to your plot. The strong, praiseworthy, reason for the song. Creator, death, ever living, eternal. Reckoner, restorer, the most gracious. The noble, very patient. The rich, don't need your meal when you're 40 acres. The majestic, the just, the watcher over us. Peer supreme judge, we can't touch. Able to forgive, dishonor, or revenge. Accept her repentance, give me a reason to live. Al-Azim, Al-Halim, Al-Hakim. King of the universe, in need of nothing. The subduer, beneficial bestower. Made us respect Miriam, we ain't even know her. The high, only Shaitan status is lower. Al-Kabir, they'll see when it's all over. If he's not your wali, you don't have a friend. Very loving supporter, you should love to the end. Try to war with the most glorious, and you can't win. Worship of along with Allah is a grave sin. The faithful and richer, how could they hate him? Jesus a prophet, not the originator, not the creator, and not the light. Isa can only do miracles with Allah's might. Allah's the resurrector, gonna bring Isa back to this life. Cause he's the unique maker, the maintainer. The reason getting the jinn is more greater than his labor. The reason getting the jinn is more greater than his paper. After Muhammad, there was none, but all prophets came to tell everybody about the one. If my parents abandoned me, then he's still my guardian. If it wasn't for Islam, I'd probably be partying. But he knows what my life worth. He's Al-Hafiz, the compassionate. It's him I need. To Allah belongs the best names. We don't play with this Islam, baby, it's not a game. The responder, only one with the answer to the pain. Al-Hafiz, why do they act vain? To Allah belongs the best names. We don't play with this Islam, baby, it's not a game. To Allah belongs the best names. We don't play with this Islam, it's not a game. To Allah belongs the best names. We don't play with this Islam, it's not a game.